Hey, what's happening, everybody? Happy Sunday. Or, no, it's Monday. Yep, it's going to be Monday, the day I post this video. So, today we are returning to the My Favorite LJN tournament. I figure one day off to post the recent pickup video would be fine. Yes, I know I've been talking about putting out the magazine review videos, but I think I've decided that I'm probably going to postpone that until 2025. Things can change, of course, per usual. I say postponement until 2025, and then next week I could probably put out 8 videos in one day with all magazine review videos. You never know. But in the last video, I kind of talked about wanting to kind of create a sort of format where what I'm doing right now with the LJN tournament, where I'm putting out a video every single day with the tournament, and then maybe in between each section, like every 6 videos or every 3 videos, put out like a different video. I'm thinking I want to do something similar with the magazines, because there's so many freaking magazines. If I put out even 3 videos a week that's still going to take about a year or so to go through all the magazines. So I'd much rather have them be put out on a daily basis. The only issue I find with that is that in 2025, I said that I wanted to take a step back, meaning I kind of wanted to move away from the dailies and go back to posting every 2 or 3 days, every 4 days, etc. I don't know. There's just so many videos I want to make, and I always have to be conscientious of the viewers and the viewers' time. So it's not just about what the viewers want to watch, it's also about the time constraints. I might put out 10 videos that a viewer wants to watch, but if they don't have the time available to actually watch those 10 videos, they're going to be lagging way behind. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I want to make videos. I want to get them out as quickly as possible. I don't know. I'm at a loss. But for now, at least we have the tournament videos in the short term. And if there is like a specific magazine that anyone's looking for, like, hey, I had this magazine as a kid, do you have it? I would like to see it again. If I have it, I could definitely put that as like maybe a secondary video to put out on a certain day or something. But anyway, LJN tournament. We have completed 18 videos. We are on round 1, part 19. And our first matchup of the day is going to be King Harley Race from Mark Hackenberg. I believe that is the purple repaint, as he squares off against Red Macho Man. That should be a pretty good matchup, actually. Next matchup is going to feature Jim Neidhart as he does battle against Red Bobby Heenan. Ooh, the Red Bobby Heenan. That's a good one. That's a tough one, because you're going to lose a great one right there. Jimmy Snuka squares off against Ram Treasure Smash. Nah, that one's kind of a wash. Last matchup for this video is going to feature Rick Martel as he does battle. Damn, Rick Martel cannot catch a break. Rick Martel versus Random Treasures Dusty Rhodes. Nope. That's Wrestling Writers Dusty Rhodes. But if you're looking at Ram Treasures or Wrestling Writers Dusty Rhodes, either way, it's a tough matchup. But I'm going to go ahead and pause, get these figures pulled, and we begin the tournament in a split second. Alright, folks, we got the figures pulled, and we are ready to begin our matchups. First battle is a good one. It's going to feature Red Macho Man as he squares off against King Harley Race. And we will look at, let's start with Macho Man. So I don't know. Yeah, I think this is supposed to be like a Macho King variant. So this is actually one of the very first Macho Man customs. One of the first customs in general that I purchased. So I had to get this one probably very early in 2022. I do know that I got him early enough in 2022 that he was part of my very first, my favorite LJN tournament. And if I recall correctly, I believe he was my initial winner. If you guys recall, when in the first tournament, any original figure, for example, I had the Colosseum version, the Roman Hercules original LJN, and then I had the Billy Jack Haynes custom to look like Hercules from the Raider Nation, and then I had the Hercules from Wrestling Rider, the resin figure. All three of those were Hercules figures, so all three of them squared off against each other in the first tournament. Now, of course, when I did the second tournament, because they were all different body types, they all squared off separately as different figures. But in the second tournament, basically any custom figure that resembled their original figure would have squared off against each other. And of course, this one was always my winner. Well, this one was my winner in the first one. The second one, I don't remember. I would assume either the Robert Jackson or the Wrestling Rider Macho Man would have been victorious with this particular body type. But it was still a good one. Again, for one of my earlier customs, it was one that, you know, still kind of speaks to me. Do I classify it as one of the best? No, probably not anymore. But again, think about that Hulk Hogan, blue and white Hogan with the America graphics on the shirt. It was the very first custom I ever bought. Very first LJN custom I ever bought. So it still holds merit to me for that particular reason. I don't remember where in my custom buying I got this, but it's still a great figure, great aesthetically pleasing figure. I think with the simplicity of this figure, I might actually want to use this one more than some of the other ones that there's just so much more going on to those figures. But come on, you can't take like a Robert Jackson or a Wrestling Rider with cape or robe and crown and all that and say this isn't as good. That's BS. Okay. And then we look at Mark Hackenberg's Harley race. He does have a couple different Harley race figures in this tournament, and I said that one of them was a simple repaint where he just made the purple a lot darker variant of the purple, made it pop a whole lot more, and then he's got more of like a blue and red younger version of Harley race. I was super excited about getting into that figure because that one is incredible. And come on, guys, but what he does with these figures are absolutely unheard of. You throw in the crown accessory, and this might be a Ram Treasures custom crown. I don't think it's original because the crown that I have on my original Harley race, I think it's resin because you don't have like where it sinks in and where where it's like rubbery. So I like this crown 1,000 times more because it actually sits on his head and doesn't actually fall off. I like the original Harley race. Good color to it, but this one, like I said, it just pops so much better. I still say that Harley race kind of like the Demolition Axe figure. It has like the same general thought process when you're thinking about the figure. Where Demolition, the overall look of the figure is probably a top 10 appearance, but then you throw in that stupid Jesse Ventura pose and it drops him back from like top 10 figure to probably somewhere in the 40s. 30s at best, somewhere in the 40s possibly. And Harley race. Aesthetically with the accessories, possibly top 20, 25 figure. Because of that, if you remove the vest, the jacket, and he was just boots and trunk, based on this pose, he's a top 5 worst LJN, maybe even a top 3 worst. So let's say 75 figures, for example. He'd be like somewhere around 72, 73 best figure. So this is where the accessory saves him. So all in all, he kind of falls in the same bracket of Demolition, where they could both technically be hovering around the 30-something range, 40-something range, among my favorites. It's Harley Race in and of himself is a very expensive figure, one of the more valuable figures overall. And the accessory to boot, especially if you got an original, yeah, it's a pricey figure. For me, this is no doubter. I think Harley Race is a sheer cut winner. Neither one of these are necessarily playable figures. Now, if you were looking at, if I had to use a go-to figure, yeah, Macho Man would be much more playable, definitely. If I wanted to go off name recognition and who I could do more with, Macho Man. Because I grew up watching Macho Man. I grew up idolizing Macho Man, third all-time favorite wrestler, right? Up until I started collecting LJNs, I knew nothing about Harley Race. I still know very little about him overall. So it boils down to, with neither one being a very good posable figure, you gotta fall on graphics and overall design and paint. And like I said, man, Mark, possibly the best darn LJN customizer there is out there. I've seen many customizers, many fantastic elite customizers. I mean, someone you'd classify as the best of the best, and I would put him up against pretty much any of them. He does amazing work. So there's 20 or so figures that I bought from him. I have not had a single complaint with any of his figures. So, and that's what it should be, man. You gotta be proud. Be happy with the product that you're getting. You never see any cracking of the paint. You don't see any paint bleed. You don't see lines on the figure. Sometimes when you paint multiple coats on a figure, you'll see those little paintbrush lines. It's always pristine work. And like I said, when you look at other customizers and you're constantly seeing cracking and paint loss, it's like, where's that coming from? I look these figures up and down. They sit on my shelves just like everyone else. They don't move. So why do these figures stay the way that they are? So yeah. When it comes to customization, that's what I should do, man. I should buy random treasure figures for unpainted for cheap, send them out to Mark and have him paint my figures for me, because if they start cracking, then that does tell me that there has something to do with the rubber and not necessarily the paint or skill set of anyone else, because you kind of feel the original rubber of LJNs and you compare it to like some of the rubbers that let's say Ram Treasures, for example, utilizes. Or you look at the big rubber guys and you look at the type of rubber that they use. So far, I haven't had any problems with paint cracking or paint loss on those figures, but in time, if it starts happening, you gotta start looking at the rubber and see what's what. But Harley Race for me, I mean, to me, that's too easy of an answer. Next one is Jim Neidhart versus Red Bobby Heenan. I don't like this matchup. I know who I'm going to choose, but it sucks. So, we will start with Jim Neidhart. 2.5 years ago, right after I completed the My Favorite LJN tournament, around episode 38 or so. I think episodes 38, 39, I did like my top 10 least favorite, my top 10 most favorite LJN figures, and I had Jim Neidhart at number 8 as my most favorite LJN. Today, if I made that list, would I still have them in the same lineup? I probably wouldn't. I think Jim Neidhart would still be in the top 10. I don't think he would be number 8, though. I think I'd probably drop him to number 10. I think someone like Warlord, who was like probably number 9, I would probably drop him out of the top 10. SD Jones, who was number 10, would probably be pushed up to like number 5. There are just so many great figures and so many great choices. Like, it's hard to really say which one is technically the best figure, right? Like, I still classify Big John Studd as my number 1 favorite LJN figure, but if you're looking at girth, grip, playability, size of figure, name recognition, color and design, accessory, technically, Big Boss Man would be the greatest LJN figure ever made. But I list Big Boss Man, or at least at the time, I list Big Boss Man as my number 6 figure. Actually, number 6, just behind Greg Valentine, number 5. Is Greg Valentine a better figure than Big Boss Man? Probably not. Most likely not, but I still rated Valentine higher because I utilized Valentine more and I had more enjoyment using them. But SD Jones could technically be a number 1 figure. So it's so hard to really compare because they all have their own unique fit, their own uniqueness to your own enjoyment, your own pleasure for utilizing the figures for play and enjoyment. So kind of funny when you kind of look at this figure. I mean, yeah, he's a nice, one-arm toss-over guy. He's got a solid clothesline right. I don't remember Jim Neidhart wrestling. I don't. As much as I'd love to go back and say, yeah, I grew up watching Jim Neidhart, which is somewhat accurate, I, for the life of me, cannot remember any of his in-match fighting skills or anything like that. And at 39 years old, to be honest, probably 99.9% of the people I grew up watching, I don't remember anything about their matches or in-ring techniques and skills. That's why I say I could not, like, for anyone that's been asking me over the last couple of years, hey man, why don't you ever play with your toys? Why don't you ever sit down and like make wrestling matches and whatnot? I don't know how. For lack of a better answer, I don't know how. Because if I want to sit down and make these matches, I want to make them like as if they were real life actually happening, right? I don't want to just fake it. I want to use actual techniques and skills and how they would actually wrestle in ring, and I just don't have that memory. For me, kind of looking at a forearm, I always kind of feel like I don't know, man, like choke slam or like elbow to the face or something. I mean, that's like his fierce finisher or something. Let's stop with Jim Neidhart. We already know he's a great figure. My favorite manager tournament, Bobby Heenan was my winner. It was his Elf custom, but it was still a Bobby Heenan figure at the end of the day. There are probably 3 Bobby Heenan figures that I really wanted to see go far in this tournament. Obviously the Elf, because that thing is freaking incredible. I love the fact that, one, it clearly shows that was my favorite manager figure. Definitely my favorite Bobby Heenan figure. 2, it was Christmas based, so that's a huge positive. I wanted to see that one. I wanted to see the Robert Jackson gray shirt one because I really enjoyed that one a lot. And I wanted to see the original blue shirt Bobby Heenan move forward. If I can recall correctly, I believe the blue shirt has already been eliminated. And the other 2 I haven't seen yet. And I think this is only the 2nd Bobby Heenan figure in this tournament so far. I could be wrong, but I don't remember seeing any others. When I first got this one, I mean, the color on this was beautiful, but as the last year or 2 have passed, you can start seeing it. Like the glitter is starting to fade. You can see some of the blue start to seep through now. Maybe it's because I really got to start utilizing these on like original figures only, because when they cut into the skin, they don't really damage anything. But when they start cutting into customs, they really start to ruin the paint. And I think that's where these little dots happen. But no, because I only put it on the waist, and that's around the upper stomach, so that can't be it either. And it's not just around the stomach, it's also around the upper chest and shoulders, so that can't even be it. I already know that Jim Neidhart's my winner. When I drew the names on the tag, when I drew the names on the tag, I already knew that Jim Neidhart was going to be my victor. But I just hate getting rid of good figures so early. And this is a good figure. This is a great figure. I think this is one of those, again, Stanger GQ off of eBay figures. So, and because I think pretty much every figure that I look at that I didn't get from a particular customizer, I just automatically assume I bought from Stanger GQ. And that might be completely wrong. I might have got this from someone else, but I don't know. But I think a lot of those figures pretty much did come from him. Number 3 was Snuka versus Smash. If you want to talk about an absolute wash, here it is. Whenever I talk about bad figures, you never hear me talk about Rick Rude, even though theoretically, he probably is the worst figure from the line. But I don't know, with his hands fused to his side, you can just basically pretend that he's a no-arm guy and kind of like pretend like throw punches with just like this kind of, But the Jimmy Snuka Hasbro, I still say is one of the top 10, one of my least favorite figures. And I've said this before, I'll recap. When it comes to figures from Hasbro or from LJN, whatnot, I still say I love all the figures. And even the ones that I don't have the most love for, I can still say I still enjoy to an extent. But there's obviously things about said figures that I don't enjoy. There's a reason guys like Iron Sheik and Jimmy Snuka are my top 5 least favorite LJNs. And they both have relatively the same poses. If his arm was up like so, this would be good. A lot of figures like the Corporal Kirchner has his arm out. That's fine. Adrian Adonis has his arm kicked out. A lot of these characters, Bret Hart has his arm out to the side. That's fine. But as long as you have one serviceable arm, Smash has his arm out to the side, right? At least you can kind of pretend at least a little bit throw a punch. But the way that his arm is like, you can't really do anything punch-wise like this. Or, like, what is that? This is just a terrible figure. A guy from Australia. Was he from Australia? It's been a minute since I caught one of his episodes. I believe his name was Peachy. Yeah, and I remember him talking about Jimmy Snuka being the one figure that has eluded him. I'm like, that's insane, because Jimmy Snuka, to me, it feels like one of the first and easiest figures in the world to acquire. But being in the States, I guess it's easier to acquire certain things. It's like if you go over to Europe, yeah, you're going to be able to find... You're going to be able to find these Simba figures, right? And you're going to be able to get them for like $10 a piece, but you can't really find those Simba figures in the States. And if you do find them, they're going to be selling for like $40, $50, $60 a piece. And insane. So I can understand. And plus, if he's trying to be one of those guys that are not necessarily just looking for any old figure, but he wants the most mint figure possible, he's obviously not only having to pay up because it's more of a minty figure, but he's also having to have the time and patience to find said figure, but also the shipping cost, depending on where it's coming from. But there are just certain figures. I've always said I am willing to pay up for the right figure. If I wanted my personal collection to be 100% all mint figures, or as mint as humanly possible, very minimal, if any, paint loss or any deficiencies whatsoever, And I found the most perfect mint Jimmy Snuka. It looks like he just came out of package. But you're selling this for $15 and said, let's say, free shipping. I don't care if it was free shipping. I still would not pay $15 damn for a Jimmy Snuka. It's just not worth it in my opinion. This to me is like a $5 figure. And just because of its vintageness, it's not a rare figure. Because it's a 40-year-old figure, you could say it's worth a little bit more due to that. But it's not rare. It's a very common piece. If I were to put this up on auction, I'd be lucky to get $3 for it. But that's my auction. If somebody else put it on auction, they probably get $12, $15, $20. And that's what sucks. That's why I hate selling on auctions, because you never get what you want for it. Smash. The one thing I would have loved with Ram Treasures is if they had done something like what they did with Crush, and they gave Crush his own particular fighting pose. I thought, thank you. In one respect, I'm like, you know what? You've already given Smash the opposite of X, so you might as well give Crush either the Smash or Axe treatment and give them the same pose. Make them all have roughly the same pose. And then the other side of me said, no, I want something real. I want a real, legitimate fighting pose. And you gave him a good made him a real figure. I'm like, so I was kind of torn on which one I appreciated more. I kind of feel like that would have been nice if they'd done the same thing with Smash, though, prior to that Crush figure coming out a year plus later. All of this need and desire to have all of the figures mimic or mirror each other. Bushwhackers mirroring each other, I understood, because when they come down the aisle and, they hold that, they kind of do the pose to, frame it like so. I get it. Did Alpha and Sika need to be mirrored? I don't think so. Does the British Bulldogs need to be mirrored? I don't think so. You look at Heart Foundation, you look at Killer Bees and Strike Force. Are these figures mirrored? No. I really don't feel, and even then, even the Bushwhackers, they could have given them a real pose. Didn't have to mirror them. Didn't have to mirror Demolition. Didn't have to mirror the Wild Samoans. Didn't have to mirror the Rockers. The Rockers are okay because the poses are decent, but I mean, they're like Freddy Blassie poses, right? They could have made it different, made it more unique. I mean, like I said, this is an absolute wash. There's no reason to sit here and spend a lot of time talking about this. We know the winner is right off the bat. Smash is a great figure. Face paint. This is a figure I hope goes many, many rounds. I don't want to see him go 2 or 3 rounds and get eliminated. I mean, I feel like most figures, once you get into round 4, that's where you really have your most elite figures. Round 3, you're going to have your great to elite figures. And I say great because even your good to subpar figures can make it through the second round depending on who they face. But once you get into round 4, I mean, you've basically faced the best of the best and made it that far. It's kind of hard to say Roddy Piper defeated Iron Sheik, and then Roddy Piper defeated Paul Orndorff, and then Roddy Piper defeated, I don't know, Mean Gene Okerlund, for example, and now Roddy Piper is in the fourth round. No, it's not going to work that way. Great figure. Again, head sculpt. The rubber, again, is something I would have changed. A lot of these figures with the particular rubber that they use, I'm glad that they've gotten better and used stronger, better rubber, but overall, Smash is definitely one of the best figures from Ram Treasures. So, you really can't complain, not really, for an overall positive figure. Last matchup is going to feature Dusty Rhodes from Wrestling Writer as he squares off against Rick Martel. Now, this is Rick Martel original, and I just chose one of my spare Rick Martel figures. That way I don't have to touch my main one on display. So, this is what's tough about this. I had a absolutely fantastic Rick Martel from Mark Hackenberg that was part of this tournament, and he came up against an absolute titan in this round and was eliminated. I'm like, okay, you know what? At least I've got original Rick Martel still in this tournament. Rick Martel, even if you're looking at the original LJN without the additional built-on like the custom figure, this is still a fantastic figure that should go multiple rounds. But I kind of feel like this figure, every time he goes up against somebody, he goes up against someone absolutely elite. I've got so many freaking championship belts on this guy. So there's certain characters like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. When you look at certain figures, they're just like championship belt galore. And this one actually says Dusty Rhodes right at the bottom of the belt, so that's pretty fantastic. And this is AWA Television Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, and this is just your is this WCW? No, this can't be. This has got to be the WWF Heavyweight Championship belt. Even though this is a resin figure, I'm just kind of looking at these guys, and I'm like, this would be a freaking absolute killer. Oh, man, this is tough. This really is. This would be a freaking fun match to have. He's got that thing like Terry Funk with the right arm, with the arm being too far back, like so. If his arm was pushed forward, instead of being way back here, his arm was like this, that would make it a little bit better, because when you see him like throw he's just way back there. So, Is Dusty Rhodes? Here's the thing. I don't think that this Dusty Rhodes is even the best Dusty Rhodes among my figures. I still classify the Ram Treasures Dusty Rhodes as being one of the best figures, period. Not just among Ram Treasures exclusives, but among all of the figures, period. He is a rubber figure, where this one is resin. So, if it boils down to a Dusty Rhodes against Dusty Rhodes match, I know which one I would choose. I think they also took like a King Kong Bundy figure. And I've always been curious how they do that. Because if they took a King Kong Bundy, I mean, do they create the statue of King Kong Bundy and then they kind of like mold around the extra pieces that they need? Because when you look at the arms don't look like they've been cut off or anything like that. Odd thing is, when I sent Erica a package last year, a couple years ago, whatever, and among the figures was a King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd, and they're in bad shape. And one of the things I wanted to do was cut off the arms of Big John Studd, put them on King Kong Bundy. So basically, think about this as Big John Studd's arms, right, and then on both sides. You guys saw that new King Kong Bundy upgraded custom figure I got in several weeks ago. And I kind of feel like that could be one of the best custom figures ever made. It's kind of like SD Jones-esque, right? That's exactly what I wanted him to do, is give me a real, legitimate King Kong Bundy figure. Because King Kong Bundy already is one of my all-time favorite figures, period. Even with the terrible pose. This is tough. Dusty Rhodes has name recognition. This man is an absolute legend, no matter where he goes. AWA/WCW, Japan, WWF, smaller territories. his sons, I think his, I don't know if his nephews or anything like that, I think they're getting into it now as well. When you're talking about wrestling royalty, there are certain, there are certain brands that are out there, like the Harts and the Funks, like the Rhodes family, etc. So, I don't know, man. I didn't know anything about Rick Martel's Strikeforce. My only knowledge of Rick Martel from childhood is as the model. The man that broke the Royal Rumble record at the time for the longest tenured in-ring participant. Guy that was managed by Sherry Martel. The guy that that he and both Shawn Michaels had this, pretty boy gimmick, obviously. And I think that there was some kind of something in the contract or whatnot that said he couldn't hit the other person in the face because of the whole pretty boy the image that they had going and whatnot. I thought that was hilarious. Big beef with Jake Roberts, obviously blinding him with the arrogant spray bottle. And later on, you got the Jake Roberts, Rick Martel handicap match where they're blindfolded with the masks. One of the most boring freaking matches I've ever seen. I know a lot of people love that match, but it's just basically the entire thing of them doing this. And then at the end of the match, it's Jake Roberts, DDT, game over. I love the Rick Martel figure. To me, it's a top 20 figure. I screwed up and completely omitted this figure when I was doing my top 20 list. And when I was doing 11 through 20, he did not make the cut. He should have been a top 20 figure. So if I ever do my 21 through 30, he'll be on that list. But he deserves to be much higher. Rick Martel is going to defeat Dusty Rhodes in this matchup as he moves on to round 2. Alright guys, this is about a 37.5-minute video, so I am going to close it here. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye everybody.